Thank you, MIB, for facilitating this panel discussion, taking Indian music to the new heights. Friends, we have a fabulous mix of panelists who all bring varied experiences. The compare has already given you their respective designations, but I will have to simplify this by saying we've got a fabulous performer, actor, music producer in Mr. Himesh Reshammiya, who's produced more than 2,000 blockbuster hit songs, judged more than 30 musical reality shows, 11 films as an actor. Himesh Reshammiya's music label, Himesh Taste Melodies, has more than 1,000 songs released, which has crossed more than 22 billion views and 10 billion audio streams. Who has a record of a maximum number of biggest shows worldwide, India's biggest super hit machine, composer, singer, actor, super rock star, Himesh Bhai. A big round of applause to him. Katie Yang, who brings close to 3 decades of experience across the music industry in the APAC region. Richard Gooch, who has seen technology change in the industry for 3 decades. Jay, who has a blend of experience of both telecom monetization and now managing director of a global label in India, which is making sizable investments. Rinraj, who's a board member of IPRS and also brings a blend of experience both from the music publishing side and the label side. Scott, who represents Ivy Entertainments, brings to the table significant FDI into the market for films, music, and is a relatively new investor. I would now like to call upon Vikram Mehra, Managing Director of Saregama, Chairperson of IMI and Board Member of IPRS. Vikram has played a big role in resolving numerous contentious issues among industry stakeholders and at the same time simultaneously taken Saregama to $1 billion valuation at the stock markets. Over to you, Vikram, for the keynote address.
Blaze, you did not clear that with me. Very good afternoon to everyone. The music industry, as many of you people who are a little older may realize and remember, was really thriving in our country till 2000 odd. And that's a time the big face of piracy came in and destroyed this industry. The money started coming down, not just in India, but globally too. What we have seen is from 2014 or 15 onwards, the industry has started growing up once again. And it's a combination of 2 factors. One, the app economy has taken off, which means people like you and me now consume content through the app world and not through browser. And in the app world, it becomes easier to control piracy that's going on. And by no means I can belittle the amount of work that government has done with IMI to ensure that piracy gets a solid beating in the market. The net result is that the music industry has started growing once again. We have been showing double-digit growth from 2015-16 onwards in the industry. Last year has been an aberration where the industry has been close to flat. Otherwise, the growth has been there. What we're going to chat today is what are the levers for us to grow even further. When you look at the industry, who are the stakeholders? There are creators who actually create content. These are the people who either write or compose or sing and act also. That also becomes in a way part of music industry. There are labels who come in who buy this content and then market this content. There are platforms who take this content finally to the end consumer. And all 3 of us are working in this space which is controlled by government policies. And all 4 that are here right now have a role to play here. The biggest one right now that I'm going to start with and say that if we need to prosper, we need to ensure that artists and the music label fraternity should start respecting each other a little more. We have had our own round of issues between these 2 communities. We all need to understand if labels knew how to sing a song or to write a song, we would have done it ourselves. The fact of life is we don't know. We are dependent on artists. Fans come for artists, not for labels. So we need to respect and appreciate that this entire economy starts from the artist. And we need to give the artist the right respect and the rewards for that. At the same time, artists need to understand that the money that is being put out here and the entire risk that is being taken by the labels. They are the people who are cutting fat checks. Just for your understanding, a typical Bollywood movie whose music is bought by companies like ours, we end up paying anything between 20 to 35 crore for picking up those 4 or 5 songs. That's a level of investment that's going in. Add another 5 crore odd right now for the marketing of that music. That's the amount of money a label is putting in. So label is not wrong when label is asking for his ROI. At the end of the day, we are all running a commercial enterprise. If we are not there to fund it, who will go back and put that music out? But both of us are symbiotically linked to each other. And all two of us can make money only if platforms are making money. If a Spotify or a Saavn or an Apple doesn't make money, we don't make money. If Instagram doesn't make money, we don't make money. If YouTube doesn't make money, we don't make money. If TV channels don't make money, we don't make money. So we need to ensure that things are corrected right now on the platform side too. We will talk about it later, but like a stuck record, I'll keep on repeating, unless subscription business takes off in India, I think we have a problem coming our way as far music industry is concerned. All of us as customers and stakeholders need to ensure that subscription takes off. There are a bunch of people who always come back and tell me, India के अंदर कोई पैसा नहीं देगा. India के लोग लुखे होते हैं, वो पैसा देने से उन्हें problem होती है. I think these are weak marketeers talking. You see the success of Jio Hotstar right now. If the content is good and the marketing is done correctly, they have already announced more than 200 million paid subscribers. Yes, that's for IPL, but music is as essential to the life of people. So we need to all together ensure right now that the platforms also end up making money. And then the government role starts coming in, where they need to smoothen out on the policy part. I think government works very closely with us. We are very happy with all the help and support we keep on getting. But we need to smoothen out things around safe harbor, which becomes an issue at times where artists and the labels who are putting in money are not able to extract it because of the safe harbor provision and the impact that artificial intelligence is going to be having right now on the copyrighted material which is owned by the artists and the labels. If the moment we sort all these issues out, Indian industry is worth some 3,200, 3,300 crore, which honestly is an apology for 1.4 billion people with 800 million smartphones, 400 to 450 million listening to it right now on YouTube, 180 million odd listening to it through streaming platforms. There are billions of people who are consuming this content on YouTube Shorts and Instagram, and all we have got to show is 3,200 crore for that. I think if these issues get sorted out, you are looking at not growth numbers of 10, 15, 20%. You may be clocking growth numbers of anything between 30 to 50% per year for the next decade or so.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for setting that up, Vikram. But there's an exception to every rule where you have an artist, a music producer, an actor, a label, all combined into one. Friends, you've heard him perform on stage, but today he is here to talk to the audience, the youth in the audience. PM Modi's clarion call is there's enough of talent available in India. And he's here today as a mentor to tell us his life's journey and what are the opportunities that are available to the youth of today. What are the trends that are taking shape? What are the trends? Where are we going with Indian music, regional music, taking Indian music globally? None other than the one and only Mr. Himesh. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure being here. And first of all, a very big round of applause for the super success of Waves, and that and the entire credit goes to our government and our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji. So very big round of applause, because Waves is such a great platform for everyone to collaborate. And when I started, it was always how to enter the industry, because it was the mindset was to have only about 5 or 6 singers and 10 or 12 composers, and those 40 or 50 films releasing every year. And only those who could enter in those 10 composers or as a singer could actually get a big breakthrough. Otherwise, they would be just singing one song or two songs or backup, just like, I mean, it would be very, very difficult for them to really, for anyone to become very successful unless one gets the platform. So it was very difficult during, when I entered the industry at the age of 16. So the only way to enter the industry was to first make about 3,000 songs. And then, because usually people or the composers used to usually compose songs for according to the given situation of the film then. And so if you get the film, then you will compose according to the situation and then you can prove your talent. But how do you enter the industry was my thought. My dad was the first person to introduce electronic instruments in India. So it was, I mean, I learned how to basically compose from my dad, who's my guru, the backbone of my success. He's no more and I miss him very much. But something what he's taught me will always be there with me. And that's, my music is actually his music. So the only way out for me at that time was to first make those great songs, thinking that, okay, if I get a thriller, then the music should be like Hamraz. If I get a very commercial, fun entertainer, then the music should be like Dulhan Hum Le Jayenge, which was there in Mr. David Dhawan's film. Or if I get a very heartbreaking love story, then I'll do music like Tere Naam. And then if something has to, connect with the youth in terms of in the clubs and the party circuit, then it should be Aashik Banaya or Hukka Bar or all those songs. So what I used to do was first make the songs according to the situation, which, because our film industry, if you see, doesn't have many very different situations. The songs are having, I mean, those songs connect which have universal appeal. And so the zone was limited in terms of 5 or 6 kinds of, like thrillers, like entertainers, deep romance, and patriotic songs. So I made my music in such a way that it would fit any kind of a film according to the director's vision. Then I called each one of them. But it was still difficult for them to believe in me. Then my father had signed Mr. Salman Bhai. So that film called Yuva was being made at that time. That film didn't take off. I became a serial producer in films, in serials, and made about 7, 8 very grand serials. And then those songs which were composed for Yuva were used by Salman Bhai in his film, and he gave me this magical break. And the first song became a huge success, and then my journey started. So when those songs, eventually I started meeting my producers, my directors, so they used to take up those songs and just fit them into the films. So that was the only strategy I had, because if I would have waited for them to give me a break after giving me a situation, maybe that would have taken a very long time. It can happen, but it takes a very long time. But here I had everything ready. So every day I was just composing 2 songs, 3 songs. So coming back to what really helped me and what I can advise all the newcomers who are facing an issue with how to get a break. is that first, keep your stock ready. Usually a composer today might be having maximum 10 songs, 5 songs, 15 songs, and he thinks that all the 15 are going to work, but it's not that way. You have to make a group of 100 or 200 friends of yours, then make them hear, then get rejected, then only keep those those songs in your stock which are really approved by everyone, rather than something what only you like. You can do your stuff when you are very, very successful and try it as an experiment and do what you like. But I would like to advise the newcomers who are actually always coming to me on my musical shows, or they're meeting me and they say, how do we get that break? So you need a lot of songs, and then you have to, get a kind of an approval from your friends, from your families, a very balanced, a very true opinion, then take them into your stock of songs, and then they should be at least, I mean, every composer should at least have about 500, 600 songs ready. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult. And today, it is even more difficult because we have, by the grace of God, 5 to 6 lakh singers who are successful, but are eventually looking out for a break. Now, every time just to think that you'll get a break in films is going to be very difficult, because there are about, say, 100 films being made, top of the line films, maximum. And every film has about 3, 4, 5 songs. So 5 lakh singers, 5 to 6 lakh composers. So they have the opportunity today to release their individual music, because all the labels are there to support them, which was not happening about 20, 30 years back. But now the challenge is that those days one song was releasing in about 2, 3 days. Today we have about 60, 70, 80, 90 songs releasing every day. So how do you get the attention? And there comes the magical word, which is great melodies, great songs, great lyrics, great compositions, great production. And the effort has to be towards the content, only the content and only the content, and with a lot of, in terms of volume, it just can't be about 4, 5 songs. And then you have to study the market and also do something which is universally appealing rather than doing sectional music. I understand something which is personal liking. You might like certain kind of music, but when you want to enter a market and get the commercial success, if you don't desire commercial success, fine, but if you really desire for commercial success, then it's very important to make music which appeals to one and all, which is universally appealing music. And today, it's very easy to get a break, but it's very difficult to sustain. Then it was very difficult to get a break, but if it was easier than today's times to sustain. So today, to get a break is fine, but if you want to sustain, you need to really, really reinvent every day and have a lot of volume of great songs, and then focus on those songs and start releasing your songs, approach the labels. Today getting a break is not difficult, but yes, then it's difficult to connect. So the music, the melody, the lyrics, the content, that's most important. And don't get into this whole, see that, okay, this music is tracking because of a certain reason and all. Don't follow those formulas. Just go by the classic rule of great melodies, because eventually it's the tune, it's the lyrics, it's that song. So that's very important. And if you don't get corrupt there, then I'm sure great, all those views and all those, all the traction is going to follow. It's the songs. And you can imagine a film or a situation in your mind and make those songs. Don't wait for the person to first come and then, because people don't have the time. Everyone is busy in their own world, and that's where the ready compositions and your stock will really help you to achieve your goals in a shorter time.
Thank you very much. Sound words, a round of applause. Thank you very much. I now come to you, Katie. You've had a ringside seat in India seeing the amendments in 2012. Wearing the CSAC hat, you've worn the IFPI hat, now you are wearing a labels hat. A number of our Asian counterparts who are behind us are now in the top 10. In the top 10 markets of the world, there are 3 Asian economies. What are the lessons for India? Where did we lose out? What do we need to get to the top 10? All yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me start by going back to 2013. In 2013, the size of the Indian recorded music market was 36% larger than China's. Right? India, I think, was about 113 million US dollars at the time. China was 82 million US dollars. Now you jump to 2024, IFPI just released the figures a couple of months ago. India has grown, it's now about 360 million US dollars. China is at 1.6 billion US dollars. And if you look at the trajectory of growth, as Vikram said, you know, you're not looking, once you start to grow, you're not looking at 10% or 20%. China grew by 2,000% in a period of time. India grew by 200%. Right? So you can see so the question, of course, is what caused China to grow at that rate, while in India, which started off 36% higher than the Chinese market, is now ranked 15 in the world, while China is ranked 5th. Okay? And I think back to a point that Vikram has mentioned, essentially it is the number of paying subscribers. Right? China has, I'm rounding up figures, China at the end of last year had about 200 million paying subscribers. They contribute slightly over $1 billion US dollars to the Chinese market. So 1.6 out of 1.6 billion, 1 billion came from paying subscribers. India, on the other hand, had 20 million paying subscribers, paying, I think, contributing slightly more than 60 million US dollars to your market. Right? So, and remember, in 2013, basically zero subscribers in China. Right? No one was paying or anything. I was with IFPI at the time. When I first joined IFPI, I look at the China file. It says 99% of the market is pirated. Okay? And in fact, I remember asking the chap who was doing statistics, how do you arrive at 99%? Why wasn't it 98? Why wasn't it 100? And he says, well, actually, basically everywhere you walked, it's pirated products, whether it's online or physical, right? So in 11 years, from that situation to a situation where 200 million Chinese people are now paying for the music that they hear and they enjoy. So the first main reason for that is the Indian consumer is not paying for the music, but you are obviously listening to the music, right? Vikram shared with you the number of figures. All of you are listening to the music. IFPI conducted a survey in 2023, covered over 43,000 consumers globally, I think in over 26 markets in the world, including India. In India, I think they surveyed over 3,000 consumers because of the size, right? And 50% of Indian consumers responded to say that they are not paying for a music subscription because whatever they want to listen to is available for free. You know, 34% says that if they want to download, they can download from the digital platforms that are making this music available. So all these, I'm not making up all these figures. All these are figures that IFPI conducted survey of Indian music consumers. So I think that the biggest challenge is that because there is so much free music available in your marketplace, there is no push, no encouragement for the Indian consumer to pay. The other thing, if you look, right, 1 billion in terms of revenue in China, 200 million paying subscribers, it averages $5 US per subscriber. Now, you all know there are different kinds of packages inside, right? So it's just an average. Whereas in India, it averages out to $3. So your package here is 50% cheaper than China, yet you have only 10% of the number of paying subscribers in China. So I think the other issue that has created this is, aside from the fact that music is so freely available in India, is that there is this thinking in India, which I encounter quite regularly. As Blaise said, I've been coming to India since 1990, right? So I'm quite familiar with the Indian market. There seems to this general sense among Indian consumers that content, and particularly music, should be available for free, right? Now you heard what Vikram said, right? We spend millions of dollars acquiring the music. How can it be made available for free? Now, that aside, you have just heard an artist speaking. A lot of effort goes into it. So I think it is a matter of the government. One of the things that the government can do is to educate the consumer that there is a value in this, in creative content, right? There's a value in the music, and when you listen to music, everyone should pay a fair compensation for the music they listen to. So I think, if we don't solve this problem with the lack of Indian consumers paying for the music, I think it's going to be really very difficult to bring Indian music to greater heights. But you can see what can happen using China as an example, right? And remember, with 200 million, it is still only 14 or 15% of the population in China. So China is a long way off from realizing its potential. Plus, the pricing is $5, right? In the rest, in Europe, it is $11, $12 right now. So again, in terms of pricing or ARPU, there is a lot of room for growth as well. And I think when you do that, the Indian music market will grow and achieve its potential, and the cultural soft power that you wield, as a result of your market, not just your audio-visual, but as well as your musical content becoming global. And at Universal, as you know, we have managed to produce a number of Indian stars that have hit global last year, and we really hope to bring a lot more onto the global stage. But if we cannot get the returns on our investments, it's very hard for us to continue this investment. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very well put and very well encapsulated. Moving on to you, Jai, Warner Music is the last of the big majors, a very recent entry. Well, came into India in 2020. Sizable investments that you all have made. You have had around about 4 full years of full operations. What's the mood in New York? What's the mood with you as the MD? Where do you see, the industry going, and what are your predictions that will take us to the next level?
Thank you, Blaise. I think all you guys have said the context straight. But it's an interesting question you asked, Blaise. What's the mood in New York? Let me give you a little bit of backstory. So I started Warner Music India right in the middle of lockdown, April 2020, where nothing but only groceries were available. And incidentally, I registered Warner Music India at my residence address because there was no office to start. And from there to now, we have had a significant journey. There were thousands of labels ahead of us. We started from zero, and as per the IFA numbers, we are, if not top 3, but the top 5 label in the country. And I think a large part of that growth is a combination of the belief that Warner's management had in India and India's growth, and the kind of fantastic, setup that we have in India. I'll give you a little bit of, data points. The first ever Spotify Global Top 25 happened in 2022 by Indian non-film song by King. And that happened on the back of just large part of streams coming from India. At this point in time, the world's biggest video platform, YouTube, the world's biggest audio platform, Spotify, if you look at the numbers, 4 out of 10 most consumed artists in the world on YouTube are Indian artists. And this is when India is world's largest YouTube market, 550 million monthly active users. At 550 million and being the world's largest YouTube market, YouTube penetration in India is less than 40% of mobile users. So there's such a huge headroom for growth. At such low penetration, India is giving 4 of the top 10 world's most consumed artists on YouTube. On Spotify, consistently, India gives a global top 25 on when India is not even the top 3 biggest country for Spotify. And we have only 180 million audio streaming users, which is less than 40% of YouTube. Imagine if the total audio universe comes closer to the YouTube penetration, India will start giving a global #1 only on the back of India streams on Spotify. So I think that is the kind of potential, not only for Indian artists, but every big international artist is now looking at India as their biggest growth country. And if you look at what's happened last 2 years, every single top international artist has come to India. Coldplay, the kind of numbers, Coldplay is a Warner UK artist, the kind of numbers, ticketed revenue that they showed was mind-blowing. The official numbers came in just a couple of days back, 641 crores of just ticket sales. Diljit, we have privilege to work with him along with you guys, a little over 300 crores. So between these two artists, closer to 1,000 crores came only in ticketed revenues. So the question of, first, what is the size opportunity, which is, we are at 40% penetration, and already the top 40% of world's top artists on YouTube are Warner. We are growing at around, flat last year, but the potential to grow is around 30% every year. The second is, we're looking at just the recording revenue. Imagine the kind of opportunity that live music has. Publishing is still at the nascent stage. Public performances, the compliance is very, very low. If we have, enough support from the authorities, government, and collectively all of us, that has a massive upside to grow. The last part, which we always keep blaming the consumers, and every time any paid market in the world needs air, and I keep saying it AIR. A is ability to pay, I is intent to pay, and R is reason to pay. India has broken all myths about ability to pay and intent to pay. The number that you mentioned about Reliance Jio announcing 200 million paid users in a country, both these myths are broken. So it's on us, it's on the platforms to bring the third, which is reason to pay. And if they give enough reasons to consumers to pay, they will. And we are going through this big transition where few streaming services shut down. We had a lot of restrictions put on the audio streaming services, so there was a natural decline. But to answer, your question, what happened in China, where suddenly they were from a free market moved to a paid market, and only in 200 million paid users, they're the world's third biggest market. India is world's 14th, 15th biggest music market in the world at 20 million paid users. Imagine if we reach numbers that even Reliance or Jio has, 50% of that, 100 million. India will be a top 5 market in the world. And if you look at globally, most countries, if you look at the GDP, music market grows on the footsteps of the GDP. So if India's GDP is the top 5 in the world, there's no reason, if we do things correct, if collectively we as a body, if the government support and the artist support, there's no reason why India can't be a top 5 market in the next 4 years. To summarize the last part, which is the most critical for all of us, while we are going through this transition of the country going paid, and we are seeing consumers showing encouraging signs to pay, I think you touched upon briefly about why we need to be a collective body, the government, artists, platforms and the labels, to make, landmark changes. We are at the cusp of this growth. If not now, we might probably lose this entire, growth phase. But if we get it right, public performance is, has to explode. Publishing, we are at a very, very nascent stage, and Dinraj will, dwell more upon it. Recording revenues, we are at the kind of penetration. No other country in the world shows this kind of numbers at less than 40% penetration. So no other country has the upside of, having 2.5 times of today's numbers and still giving global charts. So I think, to summarize, is New York happy? I think New York is very happy.
Thank you. Thank you. A great acronym, AIR, reason to pay. I think that's going to be. And we'll talk about the live entertainment business in a bit. Like you, Dinraj, Sony, Sony was a late entrant, the first entrant to the publishing game. And your thoughts on the publishing side of the business and what are the opportunities? I'll just kind of preface it. We did a study at the office, at the IMI. Close to $20 billion has changed hands globally in terms of transactions in the publishing side. We've not seen much of that in India, coming to India, but you can wrap up both these questions into this one.
Thanks, Blaise, and good afternoon, everyone. So when we are talking about the topic, which is how do you want to take music to new heights, it actually dwells upon 2 points. One is the monetization, second is the creative aspects. Now, monetization on the recording side, they've already addressed, we want to go the paid model. That's on the sound recording side of the business. But there is also something which is called neighboring rights, which is collection of public performances as well. What Jay said, how does publishing increase revenues, right? Just to give you kind of a broad data set, we have only penetrated 3% of the entire India ecosystem of collecting public performance revenue, and 1% of collecting live business revenues in terms of India. Now just imagine what happens when we reach a double-digit number. So IPRS from a 100 crore company has gone to 800. They have a vision to grow to 1,000 crores in maybe a couple of years. And this is at the back of 3% and 1%. Now if I talk about 10%, that number is what has to be grown. Now when Blaise asked me what stemmed Sony Music Publishing to come to India, like Jay said, we were also the company when global was under pandemic, and 2020 we were also scratching ahead, how do we want to come back as set up a publishing company. It mooted the idea to come to India for couple of reasons. Like I said, Himesh also said, India is a tradition which is rich in music composers and songwriters, and they've always been a backbone of a music ecosystem. But what was lacking, or maybe for the lack of word, what was still evolving, there was a value gap in terms of how are you not tapping publishing at all. That is where we came to India. And what we thought, to bring this, kind of bridge this gap, why not present an infrastructure in a publishing way? Number one. Number two, we could see also OST is probably under-indexing after 2020. Independent artists is now gathering momentum, and you could see the rise. And most of these independent artists are unpublished artists. And where they go to the digital distributors, they give the sound recording, but they do not have a publishing deal at all. So at Sony Music Publishing, what we thought, we bring in a global infrastructure where take these catalog, including Indian labels as well as independent artists, to a larger, wider audience, not only in India, outside of India, give the love they deserve, give the right rates, give the right royalties, and take them to places. That was point number one. Number two, to bring them, what we need to do, we have to have a tools. What are these tools? These tools are very important in terms of creativity, where you give them sync placement, where you give them creative spaces, where you blend kind of multiple genre. We are in the process of creating multiple song camps, studio sessions, where multiple artists across various, not only in India, outside India, come collaborate. And they wouldn't have met earlier in life, but now they are meeting, so that in the song camp you might not get a great music, But eventually when they've come together, sooner or later in future, they might come out with big acts. So giving them tools, sync placements, and giving them a right infrastructure for the artist is what Sony Music Publishing is normally done for. So to do this, like I said, once you require, which is called a deep monetizing, which is a paid ecosystem which will kick in. And second, in terms of both sound recording and publishing, in the publishing side of the business, we want to bring in, we are an artist, which is, I might sound cliched, but a publishing is almost an artist ecosystem first, being it a songwriter or for any kind of, and we are a diverse country. Our multiple language and probably our reach is so much in terms of global audiences, diaspora market. Time has come where as a publisher we need to start thinking about how do you want to monetize this ecosystem. I've been telling, right, India is not about consumption of global music. We are a creator of global music as such. That is what I want to say. Last but not the least, which I say, it is not about loud sounds. It is not about beautiful melodies. It should be about thinking about how do you want to reach global. We as a publisher are not a gatekeeper, but we as a publisher at Sony Music, we are growth partners. And that is how we will take music to newer heights.
Thank you very much. Scott, I'll come to you. Very crowded market, extremely crowded, and yet you had the appetite to come in. What was your story to the investors?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Blaise, for the warm hospitality and having us here. Crowded markets are validating markets, no doubt about that, right? I mean, it's always great opportunity in a crowd. You don't want to be in a place where nothing is happening. So it's a very exciting time to be here. Before I talk about us, I mean, as an independent artist, I would champion that, every independent artist, independent label, really push out now, because you have all these tools at your fingertips. You have, if you're an independent label just starting out, you have YouTube to do your A&R for you right across the country. You know, these artists are probably, you know, all have Snapchat, Instagram profiles. You can reach out to them. You can distribute yourself. So I would say there's never been a better time to start up as an independent record label. From our perspective, we had grandiose plans to become one of the main players in the media and entertainment sector in the country. We saw massive, massive opportunity. I won't harp on all the data points and numbers that the gentleman spoke about a little bit earlier. I mean, that it's just so incredible. You know, you think about the Indian market, what was it, second to the US last year. You think about internet penetration in the country, I think it's somewhere around 50%, a little bit more. So, I mean, imagine when, you know, that was what it was in the US in 2020. So imagine when this goes to 60, 70%, all this legislation, all this regulation, all this tightening up, all these best practice protocols that you know, the panel is talking about implementing over the next few years will all be in place. The market is just going to explode. It's going to explode. So for us, we didn't see it as a challenge at all. You know, we came in pretty strong. We've been making some good moves. For us, our main focus is to champion the artists, that they're the lifeblood of the business without a question of a doubt. So, you know, have formed good relationships with the artists, work with them face to face, and help them raise their voice. That's what we're here to do. So, yeah, we're looking forward to the next few years.
Thank you. Coming to you, you know, Richard. You've seen, you know, they say the music industry are the early adapters. They're the canary in the wharf. We've survived Napster. We've survived the DMCA. AI, we are battling it there. Talk about technology, music, and given the fact that, you know, we're very artist-centric, and there's a lot of chat about distribution of incomes, some experience of, especially in collection societies, what are the best practices in terms of distribution of income?
Yeah, sure, thanks. Just for those people who don't know IFPI, I'm Chief Technology Officer at IFPI, and we advocate for the value of music, we fight for commercial markets of music, and we support the whole music ecosystem. As part of my job, IFPI is very well known for gathering market data. You've heard some of the market statistics bandied around today, which have come from IFPI's research. And I will say one statistic in IFPI's Global Music Report this year was that India was highlighted as being among the top growth potential markets in the world. And I think you've heard from the panel the reasons why that was. I also deal a lot with content protection and technology related to content protection, and I also work very closely with the collective management side, what's called performance rights. So I cover quite a number of different areas. Coming back on what Blaise has asked, Blaise started off with AI and the technological changes. And I would say I'm not unduly concerned about AI. For 100 years, music and technology have had a very dynamic relationship with a lot of cutting and thrusting, and at the end of it always comes new consumer outreach, new modes of artistic expression and so forth. And it's not to say I'm relaxed about AI, because AI, if done in the wrong way, has the potential to undermine the value of music and the value of human creativity in ways which I think could be very damaging. But I'm reasonably relaxed about it, because we've had 100 years of change. People thought that the industry was down when it was in the digital era, but we've bounced back, and this year has got the highest global revenues in music of all time. So I think we can easily deal with AI, so long as we do it the right way. And I would say there are three things that we really need in AI. First of all, to respect copyright, to understand that copyright is relevant in terms of AI, and in particular, that you cannot train an AI model without getting permission, getting a license, and paying. You just can't do that. And I'd like to thank the Indian government for the clarity in the Indian copyright regulations, which underpin you cannot train AI without a license. So that's on the training side and the respect for copyright. The next thing is transparency. We do need transparency, and we've got a fight ahead of us, because the AI companies, by and large, are extremely opaque. They're basically strip mining the world's copyrighted content, training their AI models on it, and not explaining what they've trained on. And we need transparency, because without the transparency, it's very hard to exercise copyright. And then I think the third thing we need for AI is respect for human artistry, for human artistic expression. So what does that mean? I mean, there's two different ways that you can have AI. You can have AI, and AI is such a general thing. It can be a category error to talk about AI. It's better to talk about AI applications as distinct from AI technology. So AI applications, we're very much looking forward to embracing AI applications that give artists new tools for creative expression. And artists have been using AI for years already in all manner of parts of the industry. So there's a long history of AI being used to assist with artistic creativity, and also to assist with the engineering tasks in the studio. There are all sorts of mastering tools which for years have used AI to help with the mastering process, for example. So there are beneficial uses of AI. But the problem is, if we have AI which doesn't respect the artist and doesn't respect creativity, and that's something that we need to watch out for, and I expect there to be vigorous activity in that space. I would also say that, as a passing remark, that copyright is really there to protect the products of human creativity, and we don't see a justification for copyright to apply to the products of solely computer AI-generated, generative AI. If you put a prompt in and you get something out, copyright isn't intended to protect that. It's intended to protect human creativity. So I think that's sort of a backdrop of where we are on AI. And the short version is there will be vigorous action, but I think trust the artists, trust the industry, trust copyright, and we'll get into a good place, as we always have done over the last 100 years with technology. I think the other part of the question that Blaise asked was about some of the technology on the performance rights side, and I will say, as part of the backdrop that the other panelists have explained about why the stars are aligning for India to become in a place to realize its growth potential, is that a lot of the pieces are in place. And I'll just say that over the last few years working with PPL India, I've seen the development of the very first in the world, PPL India as part of it, developing a back-office distribution system, the boring but necessary IT that distributes accurately based on working out what music has been used, who owns the music, a database of rights ownership information, and putting that system in place. That system has been put in place, with PPL India as one of the 4 founders, but now it's been put in place across 11 countries. So clearly the accurate distribution technology piece is there as well. And that's one of the pieces that I think can help India to realize its truly enormous growth potential.
Thank you, thank you. Vikram, I'll come to you. Your wish list for the $190 billion opportunity of ticketed sales. That's the market in the world. Your wish list to the government of India.
I think infrastructure is the biggest part. The rest of we also have to do something on our part. But getting great quality infrastructure in the country is key. We have seen what Ahmedabad's infrastructure has done, doing wonders, and we want similar kind of infrastructure to be developed in other parts of the country. It's very difficult to convince any of you to come for a concert when you know you may have to park your car a kilometer or 2 kilometers away and walk out there in your stilettos or formal shoes for a kilometer just to attend a concert, or to walk 300 meters to find a washroom which is clean enough. These are fundamental issues that need to be sorted if we want people to come over and for concerts. Second, I believe that the sporting arena which is available in the country today, while we respect these stadiums, I think many of them, if government can turn them into dual-use infrastructure, that will ease the problem a lot in the short run.
Thank you. Multi-purpose venues. Mr. Reshamya, you've performed in some of the finest venues globally. Wembley, you've performed in Amsterdam. Is there a message that you have for the state government, the local government, and the central government of what can we do to kind of really unearth the live entertainment business in India?
We're working towards it. I mean, I feel that those world-class stadiums that we have, like Vikram said, the infrastructure, if we can get those great stadiums in our country, then I'm sure it's going to really, the way people are really very excited about the concerts nowadays. Everyone is talking about live concerts, but the sound system, the infrastructure, if everything falls in place, and again, like, this is something which I want to tell every artist, that if you see the artists of the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, or 2000, they have been, the volume has been very, very, they've done a very, very, they've done about 500 songs, 1,000 songs in their career. The new artists somewhere are becoming very exclusive, and they're just doing about 10 songs or 12 songs in their entire career, 15 songs, 20 songs. So, of course, being exclusive is very important, but somewhere, for the growth of the country, if every good artist is going to do a lot of volume, do something which is appealing universally and less sectional, consciously, and really excite the listener, so the consumption will also go up. If that is the attitude, then the great artists that we really have, the new generation, they are, the only thing which they are lacking is that somewhere they are very satisfied with, say, doing 25, 30 songs in their entire life, whereas the legends have done more than 500 songs, 1,000 songs, 2,000 songs, and they have the potential. But like when a young artist is starting today, he's 17, 18 years, if you speak to him, he is very conscious of the fact that, okay, I'll do about 25 great songs and that's it. And somewhere that is leading to a lot of complacency because there is a lot of potential. As soon as the volume, the quality of music and the penetration grows, the demand will grow. The demand for concerts is very high. Infrastructure if we get the infrastructure right, then I think India is going to be the biggest market in the music industry.
Thank you. That's great. Jay, you want to have a crack at this live entertainment thing? You have anything to say?
No, I think to come back to this topic, we've all spoken about the opportunity in India. One thing that we've not spoken is the opportunity in exports. Okay. And I think some of the biggest waves in the last few years have come on the basis of exports. You look at the LATAM wave. Latin American music has suddenly topped global charts. You've seen the Afro-pop wave. You've seen the K-pop wave. I think the Indian wave is at the cusp of happening. And I think if we get everything right...
Exports could be a big opportunity.
Yes, exports is a massive
well
opportunity.
On that note, on a very high note, taking Indian music to new heights, I'll close with a vote of thanks to Mr. Trehan from the MIP. And we thank the MIP for putting this together and everybody who's involved with the MIP. Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure working with you. Thank you.